Hey, it's your friend and host, Courtney Turek, and welcome to Bold Moves, Confident Choices, the podcast where we own our path, make fearless decisions, and get real about what it takes to turn bold ideas into reality. All right, I want everyone to get ready because today's guest is here to flip the script on how we think about sales and leadership. I'm excited to introduce Stephen Oommen, who is a powerhouse go to market leader, a keynote speaker, and champion of the go to network movement. With leadership roles at Microsoft, Outreach, and now a leader in the Accenture Microsoft division, he's building high performing teams and proven that warm relationships beat cold calls. You heard it, beat cold calls. If you're ready to ditch that outdated tactic and build real connections, it's time to listen to this episode and learn about Stephen's bold moves. So without further ado, Stephen, I am so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Courtney. I really appreciate you.
Of course. Before we jump into some bold moves on your side, can you just share a little bit more about you and your background?
Yeah, the best thing for the audience to probably know, or they might be most interested in, is 25 years of go to market sales experience. I started at a very young age. First sales gig was selling cell phones at 16 years old in the territory, quota carrying. So I feel like I've sold everything under the sun, but my background professionally has been 99.9% revenue generating type of roles. And now I'm loving the leadership game. I'm loving the speaking, and I just want to impact this world and impact this profession to help us sell better, be better, and look at things from a buyer's perspective.
So, Stephen, it's interesting because you're more on the tech side. I'm on the medical device side. I always hear from a lot of people, there's a lot of similarities and how we have to be. It's a very competitive landscape, and we always have to be on our toes. So, you mentioned making impact. Share with me a little bit how you're doing that.
Oh, I love this. I'd say the biggest thing is actually based on a saying that I constantly say, which is principles scale, tactics don't. And what do I mean by that?
Yeah.
I am a big believer in humanity, right? I believe the AI revolution. I believe in technology. I come from tech. I totally get it, right? But here's what I have come to find out because I just see this so often. And this is what it's rooted in, or one of the many things the statement is rooted in. Why is it that two people, two sellers, can do the exact same thing? They can write the same email, they can have the same script, they can have the same everything, supposedly, and they get vastly different results. And the truth of the matter is, if I were to say this to you, and it would sound offensive at first till I finish the statement, if I go, Courtney, you can't do what I do, that in alone and of itself could cause some eyeballs to like, wait, where's he going? But the additional point to that is, I can't do what you do, Courtney. And why is that? Because we're not each other. Everyone does the same thing a little bit differently. So when I think about impact, I want to be able to help the entire profession, the entire world think through their own tactics, create their own tactics that are unique to them because it's principles that scale. They're basics and fundamentals we all know of. But what makes this world, this life, this profession so fun is the fact that we don't actually have to copy someone else. We actually have to understand ourselves better so we can bring that to the table. And I don't think most people either understand how to do that, or they're so busy hearing every guru out there say, here's a framework, here's a way to do things. And the truth of the matter is, everything works, nothing doesn't.
Okay, Stephen, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're telling me that I just need to be myself at the end of the day.
200%. And there's a very unique perspective that I bring when I say be yourself. And it actually ties into why I'm writing this upcoming book called The Chameleon Effect. And it boils down to that sentiment right there in terms of just be yourself.
Okay, I'm loving this already because you mentioned the word chameleon and my light bulbs go off, Stephen, because I always classify myself as a chameleon. And when I say chameleon, and tell me if this is the logic of where you're going, is I'm very adaptable to various situations. I know how to read my audience. I know how to pivot, turn, but be myself all at the same time. Am I aligning with you on that word or share
Yeah,
more?
I think you're spot on. And I'll go a couple levels deeper to help people clarify in their minds what that means. Because the word chameleon can come off as fake or inauthentic, because most people think chameleons are changing who they are. And what I'm simply saying is let's reclaim this word chameleon and be on the offensive and think of it this way. What a chameleon actually does is it goes into an environment, looks at the environment, and it doesn't change who the chameleon is. A chameleon is still a chameleon if you actually think about the animal. And they change their colors to blend in, to be part of the environment. While some may think that's more of a defensive mechanism, and it was at one point in my life, here's the way that I always explain it. And it's my version slash my belief or definition of authenticity. It's not changing who you are to adapt to a situation. It's being wise enough to choose the skills, the strengths, and the part of you that yields the best results for the environment that you're in and for the people you are speaking with. And I use this following example quite a bit. So I've got some young kids. And at the end of the day, if you take fourth quarter basketball playing Stephen, super intense, we're in a huddle, there's 2 seconds left on the clock. I want the ball. I want that last shot. I'm super intense. I'm saying words to my teammates. I'm hyping them up. If I take that, Stephen, now it's 7:30 bedtime, and I'm trying to use that, Stephen, to put my toddlers and my babies to bed. They probably won't sleep for a week. And
Right.
in reverse, if I try to talk to my teammates in the middle of that huddle and say, "Hey guys, let's just have a wonderful last shot," they'd look at me like I'm crazy. Both versions of me are 100% authentic, 100% me, but I'm choosing the sides of me that someone gets to see in that moment. So if you really want to show up authentically in the world, and this is just my opinion, and if I want to show up authentically and I want someone to see the whole me, it's not about bringing all of me to every situation. It's about allowing that person to see all of me through different situations in my life, which means I invite them into my life, dinners, work, other things. But again, that's the wisdom that we have to have in our choices. And so that's to me what it means to really be a true chameleon.
Stephen, this is another reason why I brought you on the show because when we first met, I aligned with everything you were saying and your explanations. Like, this gets me so excited because if people can really figure this out and really be able to adapt in that chameleon mentality while being themselves, it's one of the most powerful traits you can have as a sales professional.
100%. There's a saying, and I just read it recently in one of my meditations and devotions, where people say, like, be all things to all people. And that's very difficult to do if you take it grammatically for what grammar's sake. That wasn't actually, I think, the full intent. But the
Right.
point is this. So, what I say is, you might not be able to be all things to all people, but you can be something to everyone. And if we can cut down the tribes, we can cut down the divisions, we can cut down the barriers. What happens is when this all came about, one of the impetuses for me even writing the book was a question that people consistently asked, which was, how is it you seem to go into any environment, doesn't matter about religion, race, gender, socioeconomic path, like any of that, any environment, and you seem to be able to connect with anybody and everybody? And that's the real power of this, is teaching people how to be able to do that. That's what it means to be something. You can be something to everyone because you just have to step into their world. And if you understand enough about yourself, you will find something in them that you are just fascinated with. And none of this is new, by the way, right? What's the old
Right.
saying? If you want to be interesting, be interested. Like
Yes.
there's a million variations to say the same thing, right?
Wow. Okay. Again, this is just so great because I think of so many people back to your point of I'm doing all the right things. I'm following up when I should be following up. And essentially, I'm being the robot.
Yeah.
And the robot doesn't always work. There is a huge, we hear a lot about EQ, emotional
Mhm.
intelligence. And this is all coming together while you can be the robot. But if you don't bring yourself and you can't read the room, you can't have a level of EQ forget about it because you're going to lose more often than not. Did I say
Yeah,
that right?
I think you're spot on. And here's
Okay.
what that actually means, right? So I'll give you the example in my world as a sales leader because of what we do. My team, our entire organization, is an implementation partner of Microsoft. And so at the end of the day, we do go to clients and work with them individually, but usually it's in conjunction with Microsoft because if they're not buying Microsoft products, they don't do that. So here's a question that I consistently ask my team. And this is why the go to network motion, the go to network agenda, whatever you want to call it, just basically warm intros, referrals, networking, anything you think about when it comes to partnerships falls under this question or some variation of the following question. Here's what I ask: why would the Microsoft seller put you, not Accenture, not Avanade, not the company, but you in front of their customer? And that's the unique difference that we have to be able to answer to if we're asking someone for a warm referral when we're networking. Would someone else be proud to put us in front of everyone else? And that's why when you just said like two people doing the same thing, a lot of it's based in intention and just who they are. Although many people may not believe that, they'll be like, well, it's just an email or it's just it's all digital. I think there's a lot that happens behind the scenes that people don't see that make a digital tactic actually work. And so they just see the tactic, but they don't understand all the background stuff around what those people have done to surround it. That's a unique human thing that each person brings to the table.
All right, Stephen, I could be talking sales with you all day, and I have so many light bulbs going off. But now it's time that I actually need to ask you the big question. And that is, what would you say was the bold move or confident choice that took things for you personally or professionally to the next level?
That's such a hard question because there's multiple moments. So I'll maybe mash some of them together into this statement. When I decided to be proud of who I am and making sure that I'm comfortable with me, that's probably the bold choice. There's a lot of things that impacted through the ups and downs. But what I mean by that is when I think about being uniquely me, and realizing, okay, I'm comfortable with me. So it's no longer about me. The way that impacts is now when I can step into other people's world, it is truly about them because it's no longer about me. And again, I think that bold choice is getting very, very comfortable that I'm okay. And it takes work. And I have still have my ups and downs. I still have insecurities like nobody's business. But overall, that work and the choice. And so that's how I'd probably answer it in terms of the actual fundamental psychological and true choice that I think changed things for me.
So, how did you actually get yourself to that point? What tactics did you use? What did you
I'll
go through to get there?
Yeah, I'll give a little bit of background because I think this may help others, regardless whether you have the same exact story. What I do think is everyone struggles with their identity and who they are and who they're supposed to be. So for me, mine is rooted in my skin color, the way that I look, some different things and tragedies I had to endure growing up. So I was born and raised in Oklahoma. It was in a time where it was highly racist. People treated me a certain way because they did not know who or what I was from an outside perspective. I was one of the only minorities in my school. And by the outside looking in, most people looked at me and they thought I was African American. And
Mm.
so, net of it is, my parents actually immigrated from India, and I'm actually full blood Indian. So, growing up, when you think about tribes and you think about how people operate in a predominantly Caucasian world, I had to assimilate or they didn't accept me because I wasn't one of them. In the Indian world, I wasn't born in India. So even Indians didn't fully accept me because I didn't have the accent, the language, the things of that nature. And talking about like elementary school years, junior high, things of that nature. Very different world today. And so you start looking at all these areas, and I didn't actually fit in anywhere. Even when I would say, hey, I'm Indian, the first question would be, what tribe? Because
Mm.
people are thinking Native Americans, not from India. So anywhere I went, I just felt alone. And what happens is this happens regardless of the situation. Many of us feel alone, like we're all by ourselves. And we enter into this identity crisis, which will be the title of my second book, by the way. But net of it is that was the root. And I had to do a lot of work. And so, how that now impacts is this. I remember one scenario where, I went home crying and I asked someone, like, why are people treating me this way? And I won't go through the actual story, but unless we have time and there's time for it. But here's the point. Somebody said to me, hurt people hurt people. So it gave me a little bit of empathy. But as I grew up, what I realized is this: hurt people heal people. Because what it is the in between is hurt people need to get healed. And unless you've been healed, it's hard to help other people heal. So if you haven't been through that tragedy, you can't actually be healed. So it's actually healed people heal people. But if you take that out, it actually starts with the hurt. And so now in my mind, whenever I look at someone, if they're going through something, I'm like, there's a story here. And that to me is my story. Hurt people heal people.
That is so powerful. And it has me actually reflecting on some scenarios in my life, some scenarios for my son and what he's gone through. And as I've seen his evolution and his change, that's wow, hurt people, help people. Wow. Thank you for that so much, Stephen. Beyond, as you say, you've gone through the process, you've had to go through the various ways of healing yourself. If anyone is out there, and I'm sure there is, because all of us have gone through these scenarios in various capacities. So thank you for sharing your story of what you've had to reflect on. How did you overcome that?
Yeah. So the way I think that I overcame it, like this is me. I think most people go through like the story arc. And this is why the chameleon effect is so powerful for me, because at first, being a chameleon was a defense mechanism. It was a defense mechanism. I was just trying to fit in. I was the blender. I'm just trying to assimilate. But during that process, I gained skills. I started to learn. I started to do all these things. And then what ended up happening is I realized, and as I deconstruct where my successes has come from, what changes the intention, but really what ended up happening is all of those defensive mechanisms now became superpowers, which is adaptability, flexibility, stepping into people's world. And so when I understood this whole hurt people, like what they're going through, hurt people, if you step into their world, that there was a moment when I was 16 years old. This was the scenario I was talking about. I was in what I had just gone through was so traumatic. And I realized once this person told me this, what was that other individual going through? What was that boy going through at home to treat me with such disregard? Because that's not, and I think humans are innately good, but to have that taintedness toward another human being, I became empathetic toward that person because I just never knew. And I still don't know to this day. So I
Right.
think that's one of the things where when you talk about the actual change and it just clicked, it's starting to see those successes along the way. That's when you start realizing, oh my gosh, my story got me here. And you start to be okay with it, right?
It goes back to that whole philosophy. You never know what somebody's going through on the other side. And if you really can keep that at the forefront, but also reflect on your words, where do you want to be on the spectrum?
Yeah. And I take it to the whole other end. It's heal people. That's the healing that we need. I feel like it's even more powerful of a word. Hurt people, heal people.
Yeah,
But that's obviously where we want to be. And imagine if we walked around the world being those type of individuals, man, world would be such a better place. Seems
such a better.
altruistic and woo woo and all that, but it's still true.
Agree. I agree. So, as we're going through this, you've gone through a lot in your life. And this question, I'm really excited to hear what this answer is to this question for you is what would you tell your 18-year-old self today, knowing what you do know now?
Mm. I'm going to take a hard left and share something that has nothing to really do with the entire conversation. Because as you said that question, I was like, I know exactly what I'd tell my 18-year-old self. And it's more from a perspective of strengths, weaknesses, monetization, and all this stuff. If you're watching this, expect a little bit of a hard left. So here's what I would tell I would say, figure out three different things. One, what are you so ridiculously good at that people would pay you to, like, what are you just naturally good at? Number two is, do you actually enjoy doing that? Like, is that your passion? Because when people say, oh, just chase your passions, you'll do well in life, I don't necessarily believe that to be true. You have to first be naturally good at it. You actually have to have passion for it. And this third one is, how do you monetize it? So I don't want to use analogies, but I'll just use an analogy for example. So please don't like send me hate mail about what I'm about to say. This is just an analogy. It's just popping into my head. Let's say I love books and I want to be a librarian. Well, if I also want to be wealthy or whatnot, maybe just being a librarian isn't synonymous with being like just the pay's not there.
Right.
But if I start Amazon, like back in the day as a book reseller, maybe how do you monetize it? You see the point? So all
I
I'm
do.
saying is if we do all three of those, I would have been a keynote speaker from the very beginning because I'm naturally good at it. It sounds borderline arrogant. I just say confident, but maybe arrogant. Like I know I'm great on stage. I'm really good at it. I can move an audience and I could get paid doing it because I'm actually giving someone an outcome in a short amount of time. Large transformation, short amount of time. That's what I realized about myself. And so that's where the second half of my career is going. Imagine if I had known that at 18.
I love this pivot that you did towards the end because I think we could all go back and from your previous story and know that you would tell yourself, hurt people, heal people. You shared that with us. But this pivot you made is also so powerful because I'm going to share with the audience when we first connected, you brought this to the forefront for me. And ever since you asked me these questions of what you would tell your 18-year-old self, what am I good at? I have not stopped thinking about it. And it really, for me, it is crazy to think how much, again, we align in so many ways. But mine is very similar to yours. I know I'm a good salesperson. I'm passionate in front of customers. I love to help their problems. I love to be inquisitive. I love to see how I can help them. So I want everyone out there to be reflecting on these questions for yourself. And you bring up the point just because you're passionate about something doesn't mean the money's going to come flowing in. We're told that, but
I'm gonna just joke around. Like, what do y'all notice in my background? You can see it. I am passionate about the game of basketball. Right now, I got like a 2-inch vertical. I'm a decent shooter. I'm not making the league. I'm not making the league, right? So even if I want to coach, play, whatever, probably not going to pay the bills for me. But hopefully that example makes a few people chuckle. But passion and monetization doesn't always align.
Stephen, so because basketball shows up around all of you and all of your branding, can you just share why you do basketball, have a basketball?
Yeah, it's so hilarious. It starts out of being alone. When I was a kid, didn't have any friends. My dad bought me a hoop and I would just shoot and play for hours because it was one of those sports you can actually. So it's kind of sad when you think about it, but now I love the game. Team sports, played, growing up and all that kind of stuff. But the truth of the matter is, it was my sanctuary. And there's a deeply emotional thing for me, which is it kept me away. Like I've never smoked, never done drugs, I've never even tasted alcohol. I'd be the guy that at 2 in the morning, instead of at the club, I'm shooting hoops. So it just kept me grounded and focused in other areas. And so I feel like basketball saved my life in all reality.
Thank you for sharing that. That's very impactful in itself, right there. Stephen, so as I go back to this conversation, you left so many gems for everyone here, including myself, to remind everybody be a chameleon. And that doesn't mean to be fake, it means to be yourself, adapt to environments, adapt to different changes in life. Remember, hurt people can heal people. And last, know what you're good at. And if it's something you want to move forward with, know how to monetize it, explore options. But at the end of the day, we all have to be the best versions of ourselves because that's how we can relate the best with others. So, as we walk away here today, what would you like to leave everyone with?
I think you said it right at the end. Be the best version of yourself. Hashtag Mamba mentality.
I love it. I love it. So, if anybody wants to find you, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, go to LinkedIn. I do have open messaging. So if you just type my name in, you'll see the basketball at the front of my name. Whether you follow me, connect with me, you can send me a message, but that's the best way to reach me and check out my content and also be made aware of when the book's going to be released and as we work on that project.
I am so excited for your book, and I can't thank you enough, Stephen, for being here today. And to my entire audience, remember be bold, be confident, and be you. Thanks. Thanks for tuning in to Bold Moves, Confident Choices. Remember, the boldest moves come from trusting ourselves and taking action. If you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or share with someone who needs a little extra boost to boldness. Until next time, be bold, be confident, be you. Thanks.